This podcast is an expression of the personal views and opinions of the hosts and guests, and they do not represent the official stance of the podcast, its sponsors, or affiliated organizations. The podcast may cover topics such as drugs, mental illness, politics, and religion, which can be controversial or sensitive. The podcast does not support any illegal activities and advises listeners to seek help from appropriate professionals for any personal concerns related to these topics. The information provided in the podcast is for general informational purposes only, and it is not a substitute for professional advice. Listeners are urged to consult with a qualified healthcare professional for any questions regarding their mental or physical health. The podcast and its creators are not responsible for any loss or harm resulting from the use or reliance on the information provided in the podcast.
Recording.
Turn my mic up.
Hey, what's going on, the Street Stoic crew? This is our third and hopefully final part of our technology line of episodes. It gets pretty intense in these conversations. Today it's just going to be Jay and I, and Mike's not available. He's got family stuff going on, but Jay and I are going to pick up basically right where we left off, right, Jay?
Yeah, we'll go over that other list that ChatGPT generated there for you.
Yeah, buddy. All right. So without further ado, let's hop over. So as you guys know, for this episode, we hit up ChatGPT to give us some information. That's kind of what we're going off of here. So jumping over to the second list, basically I prompted ChatGPT. I wanted it to tell us what were the best ways to improve quality of life for humans. And I asked it just to make a list format. There's a few bullet points. We're going to talk about some of them, and others we might just kind of skim over because they might be self-explanatory. So, ways to improve quality of life for humans. So ChatGPT came up with a list of 20 things. The first on that list is education. So the bullet points we have here for education is access to quality education from early childhood to adulthood, and lifelong learning opportunities to acquire new skills and knowledge. Jay, you have any experience with that, using technology to help you with education?
Definitely, especially now with ChatGPT. You just ask any type of random question like that you might want to have an answer to, and I mean, I've asked just historical things just to kind of see if there's any information out there from the past in regards to like any information, especially when it comes to like Stoicism. A lot of it I've learned from asking questions through ChatGPT and then kind of verifying it online, trying to see of whether there's more information on that. And I mean, I've learned a lot and continue learning. So I continue to use it just kind of for that purpose. And it's very helpful.
As we're doing this, I don't know if we've said it before in other episodes, but ChatGPT kind of reminds me of, remember that Ask Jeeves that used to be really popular back in the day?
Oh, yeah, I remember Ask Jeeves. You would just ask it a question and then you would just wait to see like what kind of response they would have for that particular question. Sometimes it wouldn't that would also be a hit or miss sometimes from the results that I recall getting from that. And I think it was all because it was that at that time was actually humans doing that. They were the ones using their knowledge or information and trying to gather the information from somewhere and then answering to the person who asked the question.
Yep. And, so this is just like a more mature version of that. We kind of got more data to pull in there as the human race, and ChatGPT still has problems to this day. I mean, that's why it's AI. It's always learning. So it's interesting. But yeah, the education's like basically at the tip of our fingers nowadays. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I didn't know how to do something. I just pulled up YouTube. And, I think people call it YouTube University, but you can figure out a lot of stuff. Even playing the guitar, I like to play the guitar. I'll end up, hearing a song, but man, that sounds pretty good. Pulled up on YouTube real quick, other than back in the day, print out a bunch of guitar tabs. So, yeah, it's good stuff.
Tutorials are amazing on YouTube. When you look
Yeah.
up any type of tutorial for whatever it is that you're trying to do, uh, man, YouTube, there are a lot of helpful people out there. And that's how I look at it,
Yeah.
because I'm like, wow, this person is actually here recording this whole process to show you exactly how to do this particular thing, which then you can use that particular thing that you've actually learned how to do from scratch and incorporate it however it is that you want, which is how I've learned like a lot of the stuff that I do as far as artwork, and stuff that I learned as far as editing photos, and how to edit a video, how to do any of this that we were working on. All of this was just learned through just videos on YouTube and just trying to figure it out as I go.
Yep, for sure. I don't talk about it because it's kind of dead in the water now, but a good buddy of mine, Caleb Quanbeck, and I went out and did some social media stuff in the firearms world. He was interested in it, and, I was a firearms instructor, and we kind of digitized the process, and, everybody got to see Caleb kind of mature as a shooter, and which he ended up, because he put in the time and effort, he ended up getting better than me, which was awesome to see. But other people were learning too. So when, we would meet with people who just knew us through the internet, via YouTube or social media. And it was interesting because, you'd meet them and they were like, dude, yeah, I learned a lot of stuff from these things. And then, you might meet them later on, you kind of build a little relationship, and then you get to see them grow. So, I mean, it's an awesome way to share the knowledge for sure. Second thing on here, healthcare. So, universal access to healthcare services and disease prevention, early diagnosis, and affordable treatments. So, these things um, definitely are needs for humans' quality of life. Remember, this first question, it wasn't how technology improved these things. We're not talking about that yet. These are just how to improve quality of life in human beings in general. So, us as a society. Healthcare is super important. You guys already know from previous episodes, I've got a lung disease. Without our current healthcare system, I don't know where I would be. My pressure's been brought down like 20 points. I actually just had a recent checkup, and the doctor I see is a research physician, and she told me there's a new medication that might be approved by the FDA pretty soon. And so, I mean, it sucks, but I'm a little bit hopeful on that, hoping maybe that might improve my health, and we'll see where it goes, But like I said, that is definitely a way to improve, quality of life in humans, right?
When it comes to understanding how good we do have it with the avenues of healthcare, and all the different treatments that there are right now, about 100 years ago people were dying for some of the simplest things, and the crazy thing is that 100 years is sometime in the present somewhere else in this world. It's like that, where they don't even have, you know they're dying from small, flu that they might have gotten, some small ailment. They're going to a random clinic somewhere in their little town, somewhere in this world, and they're not making it because they don't have good modern technology for that type of stuff.
Yep. Yep. It's not as accessible, right?
Yeah, so we have it good when it comes to.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, man. Uh, Third thing here, economic well-being. A couple of bullet points. Stable and well-paying employment opportunities. Yep, that's a that's a need for sure. Social safety nets to protect against economic hardships. So all those things are greatly important. If we're kind of talking about the different bullet points here, stable and well-paying employment opportunities. I mean, at least here in America, employment's everywhere you look, especially post the COVID-19 pandemic. Basically, everybody's hiring. And then social safety nets to protect against economic hardship. Uh, at least we're blessed here in America, but there's definitely, unemployment support. You can get health care support if you can't pay for health care, all of those different things. Definitely basic human needs. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, it's a pretty much a given that um, being in a good economic financial standings with income is very important in this country. It is not cheap anymore to kind of even live, from gas, groceries, and payments. The car payments that you might have gotten yourself involved in with. Um, some of these things, some of us see them as necessities, and some people see them as just luxuries. It's whatever it is that you define it as. Um, but it's all, again, same thing as always, the balance of it, where you control yourself as far as what you actually want to spend on uh, a large amount of payments a month versus something else that can easily be the smallest affordable thing out of all of that. So that's what it all depends on. People just have to be mindful of what exactly is their necessities and where they're actually sending their money to or
Yep.
spending their money on.
Yep, for
But
sure.
yeah, this country definitely has a system in place for depending on the circumstance, obviously, for unemployment benefits and things of that nature to try to at least boost people into trying to get some sort of help, and then the next step to trying to gain employment again.
Yeah. Yep, without a doubt. It's interesting. You said something that made me think of back to our episode on perception, and you said something about what's a necessity, and some people think of it as a luxury, and some people think of it
Hmm.
as like just whatever. And I think of it as like the future and the present and the past, right? Like this kind of three domains, and the present's the only thing that exists. And it's almost like with owning something, in the beginning, it's new, it's fresh, and you're like, oh, this is amazing. And you're probably thinking about it like a luxury, especially if you didn't have that thing before. And then as you like keep, using that thing, now it's just like, all right, this is kind of a necessity type thing. Uh, and then you get to the point where you're just so used to having it, where you're just like, man, like I want something better. I want something else. It's interesting how that works. That's why we got stoicism, right? To keep us.
And it happens a lot with a lot of different things like that in life. It's just a weird pattern that just consists that just
Hmm.
is persistent there as well, which is it's kind of
Right.
weird and kind of odd to notice those.
Yeah. Well, and just looking back on the last three things we covered, right? Those things looked very different 20 years ago, even here in the United States, right? 40 years ago, 50 years ago, those things were very different than they are now. And so, you know what? These are new, like even our generation, but and or newer, or the generations before us, they were also new at one point. It's like, can you imagine your life right now without what we have? And some people, they can't fathom that because they have never lived it, right? Just like the last episode we talked about, like cell phones. Mike had a landline that he actually answered, or tried to. I don't remember if he did it. Before the internet, all those different things, right? but just try to imagine your life without it. I saw a thing on Instagram recently where this guy said, every, all of you people are, wanting to be in the 90s because everybody's wearing like 90s clothes and stuff right now. And he was like, go to a bus stop and stare at your shoes. Don't touch your phone because you didn't have a phone in the 90s. I was like, dude, that's right. He's like, you can only throw a rock at a stop sign X amount of times before you go on to something else. It's not like Instagram or what Facebooks and the Twitters.
Yeah, I saw that same video, and
Yeah,
the same kind of thought came to mind, where it's just like these kids, man, they don't know what it's like to just be bored and just spend 20-30 minutes of your time in just complete solitude and just pondering on certain things, just like while you're
yeah,
playing with like toys or something, and your mind just starts drifting into some sort of idea or thought or just like an imaginary thing. I
yep,
remember that happening when I was little, because it was just like we had so much time. There was so much things to just just stare at the grass at sometimes like you're outside and you're just looking at the grass and kind of looking inside of the dirt and just analyzing what you're actually on top of. Um,
yep,
with, kids don't do that anymore. Like it's very rare that you see like a kid or someone allows a kid to just sit on grass and start like messing around with the dirt and looking through it. It's
yeah.
not the same anymore. Kids don't do that.
Well, depending on the area, right? Because we just said previously that
Yeah.
there are areas that are still growing and don't have access to these types of things
Hmm.
yet, right? Yeah,
Right.
for sure. Yeah, it's just it makes me again think of Theo Vaughn's little thing about the magic rope with endless amounts of agua. And just like how many kids didn't have a water hose at their house?
Agua.
Agua. Yeah, and this isn't just quotations, right? He says, agua ter. We got to help our friends, our Spanish speaking friends, pronounce water. They're almost there. Uh, it's funny, man. Theo Vaughn's funny, but he's proven a point, right? Like how many kids didn't have access to water or good water or a garden hose and all that stuff. I think we talked about, my childhood. We'd be drinking from the water, but you always got to put your finger in there and make sure there's not a slug, right? Because you don't want to suck in the slug while you're drinking that magic rope water. All right.
See, in South Florida, it was the little lizards you had to look out
Oh
for.
yeah, dude, I bet. All right. Number 4, basic needs: access to clean water and nutritious food. It's almost like we transitioned into that perfectly, right? Uh, then the second bullet point here: safe and affordable housing. So we kind of already covered that with the previous one, the economic well-being. The safe and affordable housing. There, at least where we're at, there's plenty of acts from the government, fed government. There's different stipends and different things from local governments that'll help you get into housing of some sort. One of those basic human needs. And again, depending on the area, right? Some of that is less accessible. Some of that's more accessible. It just depends. Uh, let's see here. Mental health is number 5. Promoting mental health awareness and reducing stigma. Second bullet point: access to mental health services and support. This one's kind of crazy because I use that term crazy loosely or figuratively, right? But Mike and I actually work at a psychiatric facility, and I learned a lot about the mental health kind of awareness, that stigma, what it does to people, what its effects are, and just learning about mental health in general. Like World War II veterans, there was no such thing as PTSD at the time. They called it shell shock, and there wasn't really much around it, and it was kind of stigmatic to diagnose somebody with shell shock because they could be a hazard, all of those different things. And now, as we've evolved and learned more, it's called PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. And we kind of a little bit better understand the effects it has on everybody. And it's not just related to war, it's just any traumatic event, right? So you don't have to be a veteran to get PTSD. And trauma looks different for everybody. And that was something that was hard for me to digest initially. Um, and there is a lot of stigma around it, especially in those types of communities: military, law enforcement, fire, EMS. Getting the proper help for you to be able to work through some of your issues. I don't really like that word issues, but for lack of a better term, that's what we'll call it. To kind of just help you get out of that rut. It's still to this day hard because people look at you different, treat you different, all those things, rather than, kind of banding together. I mean, depends on the community. This is not an everything case, but in a lot of cases, it's like this macho mentality of, no, I'm fine. And that's when you end up starting to lose people. And so that's a pretty scary thing. So yeah, I'm kind of glad that stuff's uh, improving. And there's still so much that we don't understand, and there's still so much room for improvement as in regard to mental health and how people are treated. And I'm talking about treatment from either psychologists or psychiatrists. I think both need to work together congruently. Um, and then, just what's actually happening in the brain and how to better get through those hardships. So
Yeah, man. Um, the one thing that I do like that I'm seeing as of late is definitely an openness to actually talk about mental health,
mhm.
and how it seems that people are a little bit more comfortable now speaking on it and being able to have a discussion on, hey, I'm not doing too well, or there's something going on I'm not liking, or there's just things in my mind that's making me anxious, or it I don't know. For me at least, it feels like there is a little bit more openness to either know that someone else is kind of going through some things, or hear about this particular figure in whatever it is out there, it be it in the internet, sports or something, and they're talking about something dealing with mental health. um, it seems that we're coming around to a better stance when it comes to that stuff, where we're kind of understanding now that everybody is completely different, built different, they grow up different, and so there are certain things that each individual goes through, and for some people there are some traumatic events that happen to them that cause a change in their brain, that they no longer are either the same person, or there is something that now changes the course of that person's life because they are now affected by whatever this particular event, trauma, or whatever it is that they grew up with. Um, and that's just something that I have been able to observe. At least that's something that I've kind of theorized that this is going on when it comes to these things. Uh, but it seems like a lot of people that are affected by something in their life causes some changes that are they're still affected by it later on in life, and either they come to terms with these particular things and are able to actually live through it, getting past whatever the emotion is, or there are people that don't and ignore it, and then you can kind of see the frustration, the built up animosity, that they have something built inside them that they can't get out of them, and it comes out in different forms. And in certain cases it's
Yeah.
aggression, it's the vices that they get into, and it's something that's never resolved. And that's how probably everybody in existence has lived.
Yep.
Certain people, certain characteristics from the past is probably dealt is due to some mental health and growing in that period of time. And it's just to understand that, oh, this is not something new. This isn't something that we're just realizing, well, we're probably better understanding now, but it's not nothing new. This has probably been happening since the beginning of time. And it's just we have a better understanding of what's kind of going on here with, certain people, if they're not getting proper care or proper medication or whatever it is that can probably help them control or manage or live life with whatever type of mental issue or that they got going on.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And I just want to point out, as I probably have in the past as well, but just to reiterate, two people, three people, multiple people can experience the same event. And for one person out of the five, it could be traumatizing. And that's not a statistic. I'm just making up numbers as an example. It's not saying 1 in 5 individuals will be. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just, as an example, 5 people are part of an event. One person gets traumatized and the other 4 don't. That's not uncommon. So, they're, again, talking about stigma. Sometimes, let's say a group of 5 people watch this event, one person's traumatized, the other 4 people, maybe not all 4, but some of them might, what's wrong with that person, right? And they don't understand why that person's traumatized and they aren't, and it doesn't make sense, and you get ridiculed and stuff. So just be mindful of that, be empathetic. And again, this is a Stoic podcast. That's why we're talking about it. Stoicism helps a lot, especially, me personally. Jay's talked about it, Mike's talked about it as well. Helps you kind of reset your mindset on that stuff and take a new perspective, get you into some better habits. Journaling, all those things are very beneficial. It's not the end all be all, just like our disclaimer rather says. Make sure that you're still reaching out to get help, all those things. It's just one of the other things that can aid you in that process. And for some people, stoicism doesn't work for them. Fantastic. I just hope that they do find something that helps them, So we should all be watching out for each other.
Definitely.
All right. So we talked about that. Let's see. Number 6, physical health. So go bullet point 1, regular physical activity and a balanced diet. Those things go hand in hand. I know you've heard it before. Abs are made in the kitchen, right? Some people sweating their asses off and they're like, man, I can't see them. It's like, what are you putting into your body? And so many people think, if it goes in my mouth, it's in my body. And that's not true. This is one hole. We got 2 on the other end, right? So just because it's going through your body does not mean it's going in. It has to pass that cell wall, right? And that's a big proponent, macro, micronutrients, stuff like that. And then to support it, we need that regular physical activity. That's why, those pedometers are so popular, I guess, and now they're built into cell phones, the watches, all that stuff. They say, you try to get about 10,000 steps. That's just based on an average, because on average, for the average human's height, 10,000 steps almost equates to approximately 3 miles, and that's the average amount of movement you need. And when you're thinking about physical exercise, that's not included. You need to be getting those 10,000 steps plus physical exercise. Just moving 10,000 steps is not your physical exercise. If you are sedentary, I really need to make this important. If you go from 0 to hero, watch out, because you could hurt yourself. That may not be healthy. Please consult with a professional. Ask your doctor before doing anything, right? Diet, exercise, all that stuff. If you are heavily sedentary, don't just go out there and start doing that. You need to work up to it. And if you're anything like me, that's hard to do, to take those baby steps. Just remember, a little bit of progress is good. Consistency is better. If you're hurting yourself, you're not consistent. So make sure you're focusing on consistency. All right.
Yeah, that's definitely something that my friend GP is constantly letting me know, like, hey, don't ever outdo yourself. If listen to your body. If today your foot's hurting real bad and it's not allowing you to work out or walk, then take a rest. Don't overdo it, because it's pointless if you're trying to start a journey and then go at it full force and then get hurt and then cause yourself more of an issue. Because if you're going to just constantly be sitting now with certain whatever particular pain that you got going on that's keeping you sitting, this just means you're going to continue the process of gaining more weight or just being uh, in a not healthy stance.
Yeah.
But yeah, make sure you start a slow process. I mean, that's kind of how I started about a year and a half ago, and I've slowly been going down, and I'm more focused on what I'm eating and trying to make sure that I'm not trying to um, consume a lot of carbohydrates during the week. I try to do my best limiting the sugar intake as much as I can. There are times when, obviously, with family and stuff or whatever it is that we got going on, certain things get broken. But I try to always kind of rebound and get back on, and that's just how you should take it. It's you don't. No one should try to rush into this process, especially if
Yeah.
you're at a point
No.
where you haven't done anything for a long period of time. Your body will let you know that, hey, you are no longer in the shape that you thought you were, and
That's right.
you will definitely feel it. So take it
Yeah.
easy.
Yep. And that's the thing most people don't understand too, especially with the physical activity thing. If you can't do it every day, you probably shouldn't be doing it, right? If you're doing one thing and the next day you're like, because like different workout splits, if I hit biceps Monday, I can't hit it Tuesday or until Thursday or whatever. And it's not true. If you're, looking for general physical health, you should be able to continue those movements every single day. And because GP and I have talked about it, we see pretty eye to eye on all that stuff. Seems like we've researched similar things or come to the same conclusion. And then also, people have different goals. Some people want to be bodybuilders. Some people want to be, whatever. I just want everybody to realize not all of those things are healthy, right? And it's kind of like what social media and media in general has been pushing, for a while. There's like these people in peak physical condition. And it's like, yeah, but what's the toll it takes on your body? Bodybuilders having heart disease and broken joints and backs and all those things. And, people who go on stage and they get really lean, right? Because they're really good at eating and all of that stuff. They end up developing problems with their hormones inside their body, which leads to mental health issues. And those things are not meant to be sustainable. They're meant for a specific purpose. If you're playing the sport, you have that peak, and then you got to get out of that peak because it's not healthy. And, same thing with any type of sport, running, lifting, whatever. You have a peak. After that, you got to start recuperating, recover. So just remember, if you're looking at longevity, don't overdo it. All right. Second bullet point, physical health, just says preventative healthcare measures, vaccinations, screenings. Yeah, all of those things are crucially important. Um, depending on your beliefs. But even if, like, because there's people who want to be vax and anti-vax and all that stuff. And no matter the method, there are steps and processes to gain that health. And so whichever route you end up taking, just make sure you do your research and follow those steps. And I bet you'll remain healthy. So let's see. Number 7, social support. First bullet point here, strong social networks and community ties. That kind of, and now I'll just read the second one because they seamlessly go together, but supportive relationships with friends and family. It makes me think of the story of that little girl who was locked in a room for most of her life until she was like, don't quote me, 7 or 11, something like that. And she kind of moved around like a primate. I remember it was big news a long time ago, but it's because she never got to see another human being, live their life, and she had nothing to mimic. And I think those things are crucially important to our development, mental health, physical well-being, all of those things. It's how we learn, right?
uh, this particular bullet point is, I have a better understanding of it kind of now, especially with kind of trajectory of things in life. um, Definitely having a positive circle of friends that are supporting you when you got certain things going on. You're bringing productive conversations that are trying to help boost each other up, trying to keep improving ourselves and be supportive towards those type of things. That to me now is kind of one of the most important things that I seek and I kind of look for. um, Kind of things that I look for in people that I'll want to have conversations with and kind of shoot back and forth topics on, just to see where they're at. And just those are what I would like to have around me as far as friends, just to be supportive on certain things.
Yeah, without a doubt. And as we've said in previous episodes, we're not looking for an echo chamber, not looking to surround ourselves with a bunch of yes people, right? You need to be challenging each other. That's part of the productivity that Jay's talking about. So,
Yeah, because even then, like, even if and that's the one thing too that I don't understand on certain people's thoughts or mentality on this particular thing with friendships and stuff. It's like you can have disagreements but still be able to support each other.
oh, yeah.
So there still are things that even my closest friends, or the ones that I still keep around, that I disagree with on certain things, and I don't hold that against them. It's just a different perspective, a different understanding of certain things, and it's uh, their learned history in life compared to mine. So I just have a different viewpoint on it, and I don't blame anybody else for seeing something different. And I can still support, and same thing, vice versa. There are people out there that can do the same thing.
And yours and mine relationship kind of started that way, right? We kind of disagreed or kind of lightly butted heads in the beginning. And that's kind of like what led into where we're at now, I think, just on from my side of it. And, we've talked about it before. I used to mess with Jay. Wasn't very nice of a guy. But also it helped me learn and understand Jay better. And I knew that if I messed with him and I didn't get his quote unquote usual response, I knew that something was up. And even though our relationship seemed very, back and forth, uh, it was like, hey, what's going on? And then it's like, that's where, you kind of learn the other person, like, oh, this person's for real. They're not just a jerk, right? Like they're supportive, and that's just who this person is. So, uh, yeah, just
Yeah, it's kind of like that in all places, like at home or at work. You'll eventually get to know somebody, if you put effort into it, to kind of like sense and also see that, oh, there's something going on with this person. They're going through something, or something's bothering them, or they didn't like whatever it is that someone else said in front of us. So I pick up on certain things like that, especially once I kind of get to know people and better understanding of who they really are. And then when certain expressions like that change, it's just things to look out for in people, and just kind of have a better understanding, like, oh, okay, I have a presence of mind to know that this person didn't like whatever it is that was just said. So just got to be careful with that.
yep, without a doubt. All right, number 8 is environment. This one's pretty obvious: clean air and water. We kind of already hit on that. Sustainable and yeah, sustainable and green spaces for recreation. We've talked about this plenty in other episodes. Get outside, ground yourselves. There's something about nature that's good for you. even technology is pointing this out. So probably should do it. All right. Number 9, safety and security. So again, quality of life improvement, safety and security comes in at number 9. Bullet points here: low crime rates and personal safety. Depending on the area, right, it's going to look different. Second bullet point: access to emergency services. Some places in the US, average response time for emergency services, EMS, fire, police, whatever, that could be, anywhere between like 2 and 5 minutes. And other places, it could be half hour, an hour. Social media has been pushing that, oh, I want to live in the mountains. Well, if you got to drive 30 minutes or longer to get your groceries, think about how long it's going to take for emergency services to get to you. And so I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I actually like it, but you have to prepare yourself mentally. You got to develop skills so that way you can be sustainable until that help comes, and be able to save yourself or your family and friends.
Yeah, that's with me moving here to Des Moines, Iowa. That's pretty much what I've been chasing now. It's an improvement on quality of life, which
Yep.
is, like you said, low crime rate, places where there's good medical services around here. I know that how far the closest one is to
Mm-hmm.
me, just in case of some sort of
Yeah.
emergency, um, and just having a better peace of mind, because even that's helpful, and keeping my daily life at peace, which is being in a place where you're not driving around with people that are driving erratic, being frustrated because there's people cutting you off, or because there's constant traffic all day, stuff like that. Even when we talk about environment, when it comes to like social environment and being around, these, just being the area where you live, even that, it's kind of helpful to try to seek out that particular quality of life where uh it's not so stressful, pretty much just going out to go do just minimal
Yep.
thing like grocery shopping, or worrying about something happening to you in the parking lot of whatever location it is that you're at. I don't want to be anywhere close to that.
All right. Let's see. Number 10, equality and inclusion. So promoting diversity, equality, and inclusion, ensuring equal rights and opportunities for all. You know, this might rub people the wrong way, maybe for family and friends too, but I actually think we're kind of moving in the right direction. And don't get any ideas. I just think that it's so new. We haven't really balanced it out because so many things are more acceptable nowadays that didn't used to be acceptable, and that hits everybody different. The only problem in my own personal perspective I see in that is that these newer things that are accepted are generally inclusive for people like-minded or like them, for lack of better terms, and not so inclusive for everyone else. And I think that's just because it's so new. I think eventually we'll be able to figure that out. And it's like right now, especially in the US, kind of like this civil war thing happening. And not to take away from violent civil wars that are happening all across the world, um, but it's just kind of like the start of a cold war, a cold civil war, I guess you might say. And technology might have something to do with that, but I do think we will learn and evolve, and we'll actually figure out how to be more equitable and more inclusive in those areas.
uh so with this particular topic that you just went over, I'm trying to see if it comes out the way that I have been actually thinking about it in the last like day or two, as far as something that just came to mind. Uh, and it's kind of viewing that everything in life just continues to change. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even in a small town, what's there, what's known, it seems to be just continuously changing. Like, every place goes through a certain period of time where things are that particular, let's say, age, or that particular era, or that particular time frame when something existed there, a vibe or something, and then it just changes. It just keeps evolving, and then what ends up happening, people end up complaining that, oh, it's not the same anymore like it used to be. And is people other people come in and they enjoy that particular thing. And I'll just I think, for reference point, right, I can bring up one particular example, which is Wynwood, Florida, down in Miami, right?
Yeah.
uh Back is well known for the graffiti scene that
Mm-hmm.
existed there, especially like in the early 2000s and the 90s as well. There was a particular area there, warehouse district. Um, it just bunch of warehouses and factories all throughout that area. It was the low income, low poverty section of town. Um, yeah, there started coming this festival every year, Art Basel, to Miami, and it would go to the Miami Beach side of town. And then after some years, they started Wynwood started becoming a little bit more known for the graffiti scene, and people started doing more functions there. So it was a very kind of what is that, grassroots kind of. You felt like
Yeah.
everything was local, and everyone was opening up little galleries, and people were displaying their stuff. And then through time, people it started attracting more interest, and then these companies started coming in and buying out these warehouses and turning them into restaurants, bars, clubs. And then some of those were good because they became staples, but then as time kept going, more money started getting invested in it. More people started buying out property, and then what it is now compared to what it was 12 years ago, when it was like the beginning, the boom of it. It's
Yeah.
To me, it's nothing compared to it. I don't enjoy it anymore. Going there, it's not safe. It's just crowded all the time. It's a tourist attraction now,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's so with things like that, it's understandable that it's just like that in everything,
Right.
because there are places that have changed like that. Like San Francisco is no longer the San Francisco that it was 11 years ago when I was living there. Portland is no longer the Portland that it was when I was there 7 years ago. So things just
Yep.
change, and sometimes they change for the worse. Sometimes they just change to someone's disapproval because they don't like it, because it's not no longer the same. And so there's things like that too, with the way music evolves, the way fashion evolves, the way the internet has evolved too. It's just being used in a different way that now is no longer the same like it was for us when we were young. So we see it a little bit more complicated. Other people are seeing it just very, you know oh, there's all these different things that now people can do that I probably haven't even realized that is actually a thing now. And people
Right.
are dedicating their time and doing and functioning, with those particular programs or whatever it is out there.
Right. And I think, that kind of hits on the second bullet point of this too, the ensuring equal rights and opportunities for it all, or for all rather, and equality and inclusion. Man, I can't talk tonight. You talked about Miami and that specific thing, but this is not a new thing. I mean, think the America that it is now used to be just native land. And so what happened to all the Native Americans? Well, at that time, where we were socially in our social thinking, it wasn't very inclusive and it wasn't about equality. It was kind of uh, man eat man per se, for lack of better terms. And there's a reason why people that are like white skin go to an island like Hawaii, and there's some native people there that don't like that. And everybody argues, but the reason is because Hawaii in its native state, it's beautiful and all these things. And with all these other people coming in, it's changed that, right? And same thing if you look at Japan. My family's from this chain of islands called the Ryukyu Islands and Okinawa, right? Most people have heard of Okinawa, I think, by now, especially if you learned about World War II. But Okinawa used to be its own little island, nothing to do with Japan or anything else, because it was a trading island. It was farmers, fishermen, and stuff like that, and we used to trade with the people that now inhabit Thailand and China and Japan. And then it came to a point where somebody in Japan, an emperor, was like, "Hey, that's a profitable place," and they took it over and just changed, right? So none of this is new. Just moving forward, we need to learn from our mistakes, right? And I don't think that's rewriting history or erasing history. It's just learning from your mistakes and moving forward in a positive way, right? So, yeah, definitely. We're always looking to improve. All right. We might speed up the process here a little bit. I think we are about almost at an hour now, and we're just on number 11. So Jay and I are going to start getting a little brief just so we can hit this. I don't think we should make technology into a 4-part episode. People.
Yeah, maybe we could just give it a break for a couple of weeks and then just resume again, just as a part 4, a continuation, if there's another part of the list that we want to go over after.
Right. And, that's the thing is like, that's a great thing about a podcast. We're going to move on to other topics, get back maybe into some more Stoic focused episodes. And, technology is always going to pop up for sure. So number 11, we got work-life balance. This is crucial for quality of life improvement. Flexible work arrangements. We've seen that, especially through COVID, at least here in the United States. Time for leisure and personal life. You got to take care of yourselves. We're tired of people retiring and dying. Make sure you got something planned. All right. 12, civic engagement. So participation in community and political activities, freedom of expression, and access to information. So we're getting there. Infrastructure, 13, infrastructure. Reliable transportation and communication networks. Access to technology and the internet. Man, we kind of hit that hard the last episode, so I don't think we need to really go much into that.
Yeah, that one was covered.
We had fun with that, especially Mike. All right, so we talked about that. Number 14, financial literacy. So education in personal finance and budgeting. Hopefully they're still teaching that in schools. If not, like we said, use the internet, learn how to do it. And shameless plug, I got a friend, Brandon Walther, who can help you out. So if you need help with financial services, reach out to us through one of the platforms. I'll hook you up with my boy, Brandon Walther. Jay, you got something to say?
Definitely one of the things that probably isn't happening, because I still hear kids even now say that that's not being taught, is to somehow find a way to teach kids about financial literacy, to understand what the value of a dollar is, how to manage that, how to save it, how to properly budget it. For me, I've always had that weird habit of writing down how I'm going to spend each check as it comes in order to make sure that I'm planned ahead of time to pay, or make sure that I know when my bill's coming in, it's going to be paid by this check. Then I can see how much is left over, and then I can either figure out whether it's savings or spending.
Right.
And that's just something that I had to learn myself. That wasn't actually taught to me in school. It's something that I just figured out because I wanted to be a little bit more organized. Because I had to go through a period of time of constantly being broke, constantly not knowing how to figure out how to pay my bill, and remember that this check I can't overspend on, whatever it is that I would spend money on, waste money on. um, so sometimes you learn the hard way, but there is methods out there, and now, especially with the abundance of information out on the internet, there is ways that people have figured this out and can help.
Yep.
So if you are finding that you aren't able to, you're constantly feeling like you're not making ends meet, also try to figure out whether you are possibly spending money on things that you don't need to be spending on that you probably also need to understand that there are certain things that are a luxury that aren't a necessity. The Netflix, the Disney Plus, the whatever extra subscription it is that you maybe at that time you don't need to have. Sometimes you need to go through that particular period of time of not having that until
Hmm.
you're financially set, and then be able to get them back on. So there's things like that we have to evaluate and see whether we have to put that as a value for ourselves.
Right. Yep. Oh yeah, and just another thing for those of you that are interested, because the second bullet point to this is access to banking and financial services. Uh, my guy Walter, uh, he meets with people for free, right? Like the consults are free. Um, they are a business, so they're looking to profit on some things, but uh, I know this dude really well. His goal in life is not to make you broke; it's to make you better off financially. So, and it's not just his service. If you don't want to reach out to him for any reason, tons of other financial services are like that. They'll help you kind of get back to square one. And you know what? If you're broke, they're going to try to make you not broke so you can afford their services, right? Like it works out for both of you. So it's not hard to think about. Number 15, cultural and recreational activities. Access to cultural events, arts, and recreational opportunities. I used to see this more in the 90s and not so much anymore. Now it's all kind of socialized, or, what do you call that? On social media, I guess, rather than meeting up in person. But we got to bring that back. We got to bring that back. Uh, Entertainment and leisure options. There's Jay just talked about all those Netflixes and Hulu's and Voodoo's, or what, I don't know, all those other services. Tons of entertainment out there. They got affordable options. I just had my internet
The
upgraded.
game passes.
Yeah, the game passes, right? I just had my internet updated to Xfinity, to help out with this podcast, and they told me about there's financial support just to get internet. They want,
Jeez.
people with lower income or single income households to be able to afford the high speed internet. So there's programs out there to get, you these services or access to these services too. So there's tons of stuff out there. Just take advantage of it. You know. Let's see. 16, environmental stewardship. So sustainable practices and conservation efforts. You know, for a while they were pushing recycling and stuff in my area. It's not so much anymore. And then we do have like recycling bins that you can order for your house, or they're available, in community housing. But there's a longer list of what you can't put in there now than what you can put in there, and that kind of sucks. Like if an item touches food or there's food contents in it, you can't recycle it, and it's like, well, it kind of defeats the purpose.
Living down in Miami in South Florida, uh, recycling wasn't too much of a thing until like I'd say the 2000s, maybe around that time. So growing up, I remember there was no recycling in the areas that I used to live at. But then moving to another part of town, um, there was recycling. So that's kind of where it started a little bit. Then I ended up moving to San Francisco, and then I noticed how like big they were on the recycling. They had three different recycling bins out there. They had a compost, the recycling, and the trash. And then, once I went to Portland, I started partaking more in that. I used to
Hmm.
save my bottles, save my cans. I used to take it over to the Winco out there, and cash out my money from that, just a little bit of extra cash to have at the end of the week. And that's what I've been able to restart out here. I bring my cans and my beer bottles out there, and I just start piling them up, and then whenever it becomes too much, I'll just take it out there to a Hy-Vee and just get my money back. But yeah, it's I like it when we end up moving to a place like that, because in Austin there was nothing like that. In Texas, you don't recycle out there. They don't give you anything back for the recycling. There are areas where you do separate your trash, but even then, like, you don't really see too much of that in a lot of the places that I had been at.
Yeah.
So I think also in Tallahassee, it was recycling almost felt non-existent out there.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Number 17, empowerment and self-determination. It's kind of the cream of the crop for us Stoics, right? And encouraging individuals to pursue their goals and dreams. A lot of habit trackers and stuff could help you with that and really help you maintain focus. Second bullet point here, fostering a sense of autonomy and control over one's life. If you think of like intrinsic motivation, there's an acronym called CAR, and that's competency is C, autonomy is A, and relatedness is R. So those things kind of all help out, and you got to find out what you actually like to do, what you can improve on as well. Number 18, spirituality and purpose also goes hand in hand with Stoicism. First bullet point here, encouraging self-reflection and the pursuit of personal meaning. Wow. Yeah, I mean, tons of different avenues for spirituality. Stoicism, I would say, really, really dives into that. But, other like religions and stuff like that, they also dive into that too heavily. Second bullet point here, support for spiritual and philosophical exploration. And man, the Stoics are philosophics, right? It's philosophics? Philosophers. What the heck? I'm just making up my own terms. We're gonna trademark that real quick. Philosophics. Yeah, that's my new word. That's Nate at what's my Instagram handle, PNW Stoic or something like that. Yeah, whatever my thing is, it's linked or whatever. Yeah, philosophics.
You can quote them.
Yeah, Nate said it. All right. Number 19, resilience and coping skills. Again, with number 18, you're going to support that heavily. A couple of bullet points: teaching stress management and coping strategies, crucially important. Building emotional resilience, right? Last one here is access to justice. So ensuring fair and accessible legal systems. And again, we're always evolving, but we're looking to improve that, especially right now. And then protection of human rights and freedoms. Depending on where you live or what country you're in, those things are either pretty established or not so much. So, those things are all crucially important. That is our list of 20 things that will best help improve quality of life for humans. And that is, folks, by ChatGPT. So thinking about those, we're getting back to technology. The next prompt I asked ChatGPT is, what role does technology play in humans' quality of life? So this one is just a list of 13 based on what time are we at? We over an hour? We're over an hour. We're going to kind of breeze through these because they're just going to be supporting the last one. Jay and I kind of already dived into most of these, so you can connect the dots. It's pretty easy. But number 1 is access to information. Yep, killed it. Communication, those two kind of go hand in hand. Healthcare, we talked about that. Education, that was the first thing we hit. Number 5 is work and productivity. Yep, crushed it. Transportation, entertainment, personal convenience. Environmental monitoring and conservation. Number 10, economic opportunities, uh, accessibility, innovation and problem solving. Eh? Innovation and problem solving. ChatGPT is giving us that. You think it's a shameless plug? Maybe. Right. Uh, and then finally, number 13, personal health and fitness. And I kind of wanted to read this bullet point because it makes sense. But wearable devices and health apps help individuals track their fitness, monitor their health, and adopt healthier lifestyles. Uh, I really wasn't into the Apple Watches when they first came out. I thought they were just really expensive things to wear on your wrist until I saw what it could do for monitoring your health, and then I found out that data was crucially important when I meet with my lung specialist, my lung doctor. They're called pulmonologists, and being able to monitor my oxygen through activity throughout the day, during sleep, my sleep habits, my heart rate variability, all of those things can really help us stay healthy. And so that is one thing that I greatly appreciate about technology as it relates to health. And, like it said, and we've talked about before, access to that information. As I mentioned, GP and I have kind of talked about this. I know he and I both read a lot of books, but also this information is just at the tip of your fingertips. Google search, YouTube's, Chat GPT now, because Chat GPT is growing, so it has more information than it did last year. All of those things can help you with your health. So, all right. So at the end of this list of 13, it's got like its own little discretion, right? It says, while technology offers numerous benefits, it's important to acknowledge potential downsides, including, and I'm just going to list out quickly this list of 5 because I prompted to get a larger list, and that's when Jay and I are going to start going back and forth and talking about it. But this list of 5 is digital divide, privacy and security concerns. Number 3 is techno stress. 4 is environmental impact, right? Because even Jay's little example of where he lived in the recycling and stuff, it's a huge impact, right? And then finally, number 5, job displacement. So things like Chat GPT are also scary because it can take jobs away from people. So the next prompt here, I said, what detriment does technology play in humans' quality of life? Sorry, I got the hiccups. Number 1, I think Jay defined this the best in a previous episode, and that is social isolation. And go back through the other parts of technology. Jay kind of really talks about it. I think for the most part, he focuses on how it impacts children, which is crucially important because our children are our future. They're the future of this planet, right? And so, yeah, just go back and listen to that. Number 2, physical health issues. Again, I think I liked Jay's response on this previously the best because I think you sparked me imagining some dude behind a computer and they're either overweight or severely underweight and they're drinking like Monster Energy drinks and eating bags of chips while they're gaming or I guess that's computer and then this is gaming. Right? I don't know. This is gaming.
Yeah,
This computer. Yeah. Uh, anyways, sorry, just having a little fun.
something like that. Yeah, I'm not remembering specifically which one that what that topic was, but yeah, I kind of remember something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, the mental health challenges, right? So that can be a detriment. Here it says technology can contribute to mental health issues, including anxiety, depression, and addiction. Also, cyberbullying, online harassment, and exposure to disturbing content can also cause harm psychologically, right?
I'm not sure whether like the information is just something that I'm able to come across because of the avenues of, either my algorithm
Mm-hmm.
or if it's just the content that I gravitate towards. But it just seems that I've seen a lot of information popping up about how there has been a lot of harm, coming from a lot of use of technology, a lot
Yep.
of use of especially in kids, and the way that they're growing up. And it's kind of like we need to put two and two together, where it's like we're seeing a certain issue right now with a certain generation coming up, and everyone's just looking at them like, oh my God, they're just so reckless, so wild, so this or that. And it's like, these are the ones that grew up on the internet, like
Yeah.
from beginning to like current. These are the kids, these are the generations that didn't experience life without technology, and so they've had it in abundance, and so they probably have an altered reality of how things function. They don't in a lot of cases they may not understand that there are still things that people do out there that are not, you know it's not it's not third world. It's not, it's not something from the past. People still live in, poverty. There's certain things that people still have to
Mm-hmm.
do, um, that they may not like. It's still rough out there for people, and there are people that think that, they have to live a certain way or in life in order for them to be happy in life. And it's like, no, people can have a simple life and be okay and not have to have like the most out of life. And it's that false sense of hope too, of like, oh, I want to be someone, and not getting to that particular point and just feeling like a failure. And it's like, it's not. That's because that, for that particular aspect of life, you decided to dedicate your life to achieving this, and it's not something that was attainable. So you've
Mm-hmm.
just now directed your life to just a different goal, a different task. And it's okay. You can deviate that task into something that is going to be a little bit more reasonable for you, especially in this modern time, this actual modern existence that you didn't actually plan. Because that's the thing, you didn't plan for life to be the way that it is right now.
Right.
If your plans, your goals have always been in the perfect circumstance. And if you don't have that wiggle room to know that, oh, maybe in 2 years I'm not going to be able to buy that house that I've actually been buying because the economy might have gotten worse, or just something else is happening that is preventing that all to happen. So it's just, you have to have that mentality that, it might not turn out the way that it is. And that's for a lot of things out there. And just be able to be comfortable, be happy that the fact that life sometimes is very random. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
things just randomly happen. It's everyone's existing at the same time, and your path is going to be blocked, or something might come in between it, because you have to interact with a bunch of other people in order to try to achieve that. And so it's just always about trying to figure out how to navigate through life and trying to figure out that path to finally achieve that goal that you have in mind and set. So sometimes that's not going to be a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from
Mm-hmm.
now. It takes some time. That's the other thing that people are losing: patience.
Yep.
We've lost the ability to have patience in things because we've occupied most of our time with a screen or distracting ourselves. Because now, like the conversation that we were having earlier, uh, we don't we don't spend time just being bored and just not not occupying our time with some activity that's entertaining us and keeping us entertained or
Yeah.
distracted. And that those things that, like, I think I mentioned that one of the episodes back, those are the type of things, that particular moment of boredom that you have, at least for me, it starts turning gears, turning things, and I start processing some idea of something. I start going through the file cabinet of, all right, what is the information that I haven't gone over in a while, and then what do I need to focus on? What is the work that I want to focus on right now? And it's all these ideas start coming up. Okay, I start planning them, write them down. So that to me is how my boredom is occupied now. It's just idea processes, but that's for a lot of people. It's coming up with new music or coming up with a new idea for art, coming up with strategies for work, for a business or something. Sometimes you need
Mm-hmm.
that this stepping away from the screens, the technology, the something, or isolate
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Sometimes there are people that actually, and I don't see me actually doing that often, but I hear a lot of people like going out for walks or a run without actually listening to anything like music or a podcast or something. I'm like, that's too far there for me, but I get the idea. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, there's things like that people do, and it's cool.
for sure, for sure. All right, number 4 on the list: privacy and security concerns. The digital world the digital world presents privacy and security risks, and we're all probably felt that in some way, shape, or form. Data breaches, identity theft, surveillance can threaten individuals' sense of security and privacy. So things to take note of, right? Number 5, information overload, where Jay talks about balance and unplugging. So, with the constant flow of information through technology, individuals may experience information overload, leading to stress, cognitive fatigue, and difficulty in decision making. I see information overload is you get sick or you get some symptoms and you Google it, and within 2 seconds, next thing you know, you're going to die in 5 days or whatever that is, right? So watch out with that information overload, right?
So I have something to add to the one about the security and that particular information with data. Um, so that's kind of the avenue of work that I have now kind of gone into here in Des Moines. So I've kind of learned a little bit more, and that's what I enjoy about my job now. Is just every day I'm learning something new. Um, Everything is pretty much data. Like anything online, anything that you're putting information in, the password, the login information, the website you might create, the you know anything that has to do with something that's information that you're plugging into either your telephone screen or into a laptop computer, that goes somewhere. And so there are buildings where this data needs to go to retain and store itself there. So that's an interesting whole world to understand that,
Yeah.
and to understand too that all of your information goes somewhere. And a lot of these companies obviously have awesome security infrastructures to prevent any type of hacking, any type of issues from happening. In those, there's security protocols on site. uh, there there's there is a level of security for information out there, but we always find out that things get out. So that's why it's very important to know that information that you put out there in the internet can be public. Aside from where it actually goes, it's obviously in a lot of cases displayed somewhere. And there are certain people out there that are able to decipher certain informations based on things that are in the background of pictures. People are good sleuths. There are very 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 good people out there that are able to decipher and locate people just based on a picture or the person's name that they've added to their profile. And sometimes it's just minor information that's out there public, and sometimes it's a lot of information that people can find. And it's people just need to be aware that this is things that if you value it as your private information, then protect it.
Yeah,
That's just
don't
pretty
share
much what all I got on that particular thing. Yeah.
it. Yeah. Cool. Cool. All right, number 6, digital addiction. Man, I'm pretty sure we've hit that topic in multiple episodes. Again, stoicism is just kind of don't get addicted to really anything. Um, Number 7, work life imbalance. So technology blurs the boundaries between work and personal life, making it challenging to disconnect from work related responsibilities, potentially leading to burnout and strained relationships. Hey, I like to tell people when I'm at work, business is business and personal is personal. There's a time and place for both, and you got to keep those ones separate, right? I'm not saying that never cross that line or never bend your boundaries. Sometimes it's needed. Just use it sparingly, right? We're all into risk mitigation. Number 8, loss of privacy. And this is exactly what Jay just talked about, especially with his new job. This is talking about the increasing use of surveillance technology and data collection can result in a loss of personal privacy, leading to concerns about surveillance states and invasive data tracking. Uh, oh, let's see. It's not working. There we go. Number 9, environmental impact. So what it says here is the production and disposal of technology contribute to environmental problems such as electronic waste, e-waste, resource depletion, and energy consumption. And what's funny is right now, or at least recently, California was experiencing some problems with, excuse me, their electronic or their electricity. So just something to keep in mind. We're going towards e-cars and more consumptions. Can we support that? Right? We got to make sure we got good infrastructure, like the first list was talking about. Uh, Number 10, job displacement. So that was a benefit, and now it's saying it's also a detriment. And so, as a detriment, the production and disposal of technology. Oh, wait, I'm reading the wrong one. Job displacement. Automation and artificial intelligence can lead to job displacement. Oh, we already talked about this. AI can take over your job. And we're seeing the self checkout registers. Target's got less people actually checking people out, stuff like that. So things to be aware of. Number 11 is digital divide. Not everyone has equal access to technology and internet, creating disparities in access to information, education, and economic opportunities. And I think, as a civilization, we're kind of moving towards more equality in that realm, and we'll see where it goes. We're kind of along for the ride.
I don't. I mean, it's kind of hard to envision like where is it that we're going with kind of how things are right now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because the algorithm is obviously affecting a lot of things, right? It's pushing people into certain directions with let's say content and stuff. So if you're into a certain thing, a particular thing, then you're gonna just mainly gravitate towards videos or just information that comes at you that is curated for your liking. So that's what you normally see. So my my question, my just trying to understand is, so somebody who's constantly seeing, let's say, just sports related stuff, pictures of women in bikini and pictures of cars and just the street takeovers and stuff that's happening in throughout this country where they're like just closing off intersections and then doing donuts and stuff. The
Yeah.
videos like that people are just that's all they're getting, the just whatever it is that's on that side, that's just kind of a distraction and pranks and all of that type of videos, right? How are they ever going to get information that's going to be positive to kind of develop their understanding of something else, something new? Do they also get random facts about like different places in this world, things that exist? Because I kind of come across it often. I'll see some new information out there about some new creature on the water or something super random like that, or a lot of DIY stuff that I'll see on whatever the platform is, and then I've gotten into like, okay, maybe I'll be able to do some woodwork stuff like that. A
Mhm.
frame or something. I bought in tools to try to start that process as well. Um, but yeah, I wonder if your algorithm is catered to like your particular life, the things that you're interested into, then how do you relate with a lot of other people if their algorithm doesn't provide any of that particular information? It's pretty
Right.
much that bubble that I've mentioned that we all live in. It's also your algorithm. It's like part of
Yeah,
your algorithm. It's also that bubble that you live in. Just that it's just going to be an interesting thing to see how it develops.
for sure, for sure. I think we talked about that in previous episodes, and I think I referred to it as the echo chamber, and we talked about it
Hmm.
in technologies aspect, but then also in real life aspect because before technology it happened too. So it happens, and you just got to be mindful of it.
Hmm.
Let's see, number 12. Misinformation and fake news. This is a huge topic all around the world. Um, I personally, not saying any truth behind it, but personally, I just one of my perspectives is that kind of all of the militaries around the world kind of or governments, I guess, drive the military. So whichever way you want to look at it, kind of sparked this though with something called psychological operations. And I know we've talked about that in the other episodes. So if you missed it, play back on the other episodes. But that's kind of what I think is one of the big birthplaces of where we're at today with the misinformation and fake news. It is a tactics. It's or a tactic rather. It's used in politics. It's used in government. It's used in military operations. It's used in business. All of those things. So that's why not having your echo chamber, as we've discussed before, is important. So you can check your sources and look outside of the bubble, as Jay likes to talk about the bubble. So get outside of that bubble.
Yeah, and when it comes to like stuff like that, media, political stuff, um, military as well, I think that it's just the big long disconnect between just your average person out there and these people elsewhere making decisions for the rest of the rest of the people in the nation. um and it's just an odd power that they have at that particular level, where it's just putting into action something that affects so many other lives at a different particular stance in life. It's they'll have like no nothing in common, nothing that relates to these people that they're making decisions over. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I feel like people get to do and get away with a lot of things, is just because of that long disconnect where they don't care. They sometimes, you know, let's say a certain district is unhappy with a particular politician, and that person
Mm-hmm.
might not care about that particular, because he knows that he has the support of all the other ones. And it's like, wow, you've now affected the lives of how many people there, because
Right.
of just the division, just the long distance. They're not involved in that particular neighborhood. They don't have the same life that these people have in these particular environments or neighborhoods. And
Mm-hmm.
it sucks because it's just how things are. There's always going to be that distance, that
Yeah.
divide, unless you have people that actually live in that particular community and they still live amongst them and they're still working to try to improve things. Besides that level of of governing of over people, I don't think that anything else actually works best. There's always going to be a flaw to any particular system because there's always going to be that big divide. There's always going to be, this particular person
Hmm.
makes decisions that affect the middle of the country, but everybody else is happy about it. And it's like these people in this particular region are now going to be upset because now it affects them greatly. And it's like,
Right.
well, it was going to be them or all these other people. So they, it's pick and choose. So it's just that divide, that big, difference in, I don't know these people, so people make decisions based on that, and it sucks. It's kind of a weird thing that has happened forever.
Yep.
It seems.
For sure. And that's where collaboration and adaptation come in. We got to collaborate and adapt as a whole.
Yeah.
All right. Second to last, number 13 says loss of critical skills. So what it has here is relying on technology for tasks that we were once performed, that we were, I'm making up stuff. Relying on technology for tasks that were once performed manually can lead to a loss of critical skills, potentially making individuals less self-resilient or reliant. Man, I'm messing this up tonight. But I feel like we've yeah, have a laugh. I feel like we've discussed this, especially like I know in the past I've referenced social media. They're saying like all these outdoor activities and how dangerous that is if you are an experienced hiker and backpacker. If you've been doing it a while and you do it consistently, you may have helped somebody, and maybe you've saved a life even because people see these things, and then with the few click of a buttons, they go and find that place, and they don't think about the skills needed to do that and what happens if something goes wrong. And those basic life-saving skills and those skills to be able to accomplish those tasks or feats are crucially important. So the further away we get from that, going to do those tasks become more dangerous. And even Mike, it sucks that he's not here on this podcast episode tonight because he told me one of the things he's looking to do is start hiking the PCT, Pacific Crest Trail. For those of you that don't know, which is that's no easy task. And I asked him, how much experience he had in doing backpacking and hiking, and he was honest, and he said not much. I said, okay, then looks like we need to start learning about that stuff. And luckily my wife and I have done that for a long time. My dad did it, mountaineering, mountain rescue, all that stuff. So we have some of those skills, and we're talking about access to information, learning stuff on the internet, but then trying it out, right? You can't just read about it and all of a sudden be able to do it. Some people and some skills that works, other things it doesn't, and other people it doesn't, right? In our area, we have this company. It's a membership co-op called REI, and they have free clinics and paid clinics that you can go to learn some of those skills to go outdoors. If you're looking at things that are technology based, I know people want or are interested in coding. There's plenty of free sources to learn how to do something like coding and. All of that stuff. Just research, evaluate, test, and make sure you're developing those skills. This was talking about the manual skills, right? Just making sure when you do unplug, you're practicing those skills. The family traditions used to be more popular. In our family, we got every year somebody makes apple butter, and it's been going on for a long time. We even have this ore thing that we stir the pot with as it's cooking, and that ore has been around since basically the dawn of the United States. And a lot of people don't know how to make and jar apple butter to last a long time. So those skills are crucially valuable, especially, if you're one of those people who are thinking that the economy is not doing so good in the US. Well, think of what COVID did for the world, right? Food wasn't as accessible, services weren't as accessible. Start practicing those survival skills so that way when that happens again, you're more prepared. During COVID, I know a lot of generators were bought. How are you going to make power? How are you going to stay warm? What's your backup plan to get food? Do you know how to grow food? Do you know somebody else who knows how to grow food? Can you trade something that you're good at to get something that you're not good at? All of those things, those are important life-saving skills. So just, yeah, prepare yourself.
Yeah. So on that topic, I've even been seeing like articles coming out and people obviously talking about it online on social media about how jobs like construction worker, um, somebody that works with tools, anything of that nature, even like, you know, anything like a handyman, repairman, HVAC unit guy, right now they're making a lot of money because
Oh yeah.
there are not a lot of people in those fields. There's just that's not where people have been going into because there have been so many more other options out there now that involve either technology or we have other people that are actually jobless as well out there and they're not picking these jobs. And so now the people that are out there that have these skills, that still have these skills, they're making so much money because they're charging so much for
Mm-hmm.
the fact that they're so booked with whatever it is that their job is. And it's kind of, yeah, that's where we're going, that's where we're heading. We're losing certain skills that everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people knew how to do, things that were just
Right.
necessities probably back then that were just
Mm-hmm.
part of existence, like how to build your own
Yep.
chair, how to build a table, how to fix a car. I mean, a lot of us don't know how to fix cars. I
Yeah.
have learned a few things, especially on my truck, but if I don't trust going through anything in my recent model car. Um, there's just too many different things in there. And so like, how am I going to learn how to fix that? Because it's not the same like the older car, the older models where, you kind of figured out, oh, this hose here is leaking. So I have to replace this and, just go buy the parts and fix the problem. Now it's,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of people doing that either. So it's like, damn, there's
Yep.
a position now that how is that going to be taken? And so let's say like a mechanic as well. I'm sure like just your local mechanic that you can call on now is probably charging a lot more than he did before, just
Mm-hmm.
because of the skills that he has. He knows that there's not a lot of people out there right now that just have these skills.
Yep. Yep. And that's kind of the thing with trade labor or manual labor jobs in the U.S. Or just locally, as I know it, that I've seen is just the demand is high and the supply is low, right? And so that kind of gives you the price variation there. If the demand is high and the supply is low, then this ends up equating to money, right? So just
Yep.
things to think about. And then last but not least, we've got economic inequality. The benefits of technology are not evenly distributed, and disparities in income and access to technology can exacerbate economic inequality. And, we hit that in previous or earlier in the list, rather. Uh, it's just one of those things. So it looks like we're at an hour and 42 minutes now. So we're probably
It's
going
been
to
a while
conclude
since
this
we've done one this
episode.
long.
Yeah, yeah. And we were thinking it was going to be shorter. It's just the two of us tonight, but it ended up going going as as always. Anyways, but yeah. So that kind of concludes our topics of technology, wouldn't you say, Jay?
Yeah. And just to close it out, um, it's pretty much just letting everybody know, just be conscious of what you're actually doing when it comes to anything regarding a screen, be it TV, computer, a phone, whatever it is, right? You spend too much time on it. You have to also know or try to understand that we are humans. We are humans with technology that we have recently been accustomed to dealing with daily. Um, and there are already signs that there have been issues with people, that there it's just like over time there have been certain side effects that come with this. There is
Mm-hmm.
fatigue. There are people that are developing anxiety, stress levels are high, and there's correlations. There's definitely correlations as that it's the technology that we're using is causing this, and the way that we use it. And so it's not to say, hey, don't use it, or just you need to stop using it
Mm-hmm.
or anything like that. It's be mindful of how you're using it, when you're using it, you know from what you're putting up online. If you want to continuously keeping your life private, then understand how it is to be private. The certain things that you're posting, who's seeing these things. The internet's not what it was 10 years ago. It's not what it was 5 years ago. It's a whole different thing now. And anything that you might put up is already putting you at risk at something. So be very mindful and
Mm-hmm.
cautious when you're doing things like that. Also, the amount of time that you're putting into it. You gotta know also, if you're having issues sleeping, that it's quite possible that it's an effect from the amount of time, and even when was the last time that you were on it, because there's even studies about the blue light affecting your REM sleep,
Mm-hmm.
or trying to go into the
Yep.
particular sleep. um, People are putting down their phone, an hour and a half before they're even falling asleep, in order to allow their, what is it, the melatonin to start kicking in. It's
Mm-hmm.
something where it's affecting that from actually being distributed in your brain. So have those understandings that, also, if you're not feeling well, evaluate what's going on. What are you doing? And also have a better understanding that, okay, you're staying up till X, whatever time in the morning on your phone, while you need to be going to sleep. That's what's going on. You're on your
Mm-hmm.
phone late. You're not involving yourself in a process of going to bed. There's people that have rituals before they go to bed, which is like, okay, I'm gonna put my clothes out for tomorrow. I'm going to set my
Mm-hmm.
alarm. I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to read a book, and then I'm going to put
Pass
on
out.
frequency music on to just try to go to sleep.
Mm. Yeah.
Whatever it is that can help you go through that process. Try to make it where it's not actually on a screen, and you'll find that might actually be of benefit to you. And yeah, and then it's with phone screens and all of that, right? With the kids, we have to also be very mindful of the fact that the kids should not grow up with long amount of time with screens. They need to also have those moments to develop other skills. Either the board games, even we those things still help, like to have them learn and figure out the process of a game. If it's chess, checkers, whatever, even the family fun games that you might find out there. As long as you're interacting, that's also building up, social skills, your family bond. View these things, these activities, as those um, boosting perks. I mean, like, see it as like a video game in which partaking in this activity is going to help boost your character in this. And that's how things are in life. It's not just, oh, I am having to do this job. It's also, oh, I'm also learning something in this particular moment. I'm also adapting to this particular process, and there are also other benefits in this particular process. So it's all, not just seeing it for the the negative that you might not like, that it's boring, that it's repetitive. It's like, okay, but this is going to help me in some way. And that's how a lot of things are in life. You got to see it for that there's things that are outside of technology, that it's that you don't have to just always be entertained. Even that's even reading a book, or just partaking in some sort of activity where you're learning something, you're figuring out something for yourself. That's also a very important thing too. It's understanding yourself, knowing who you are, why you do certain things, and you'll have a better understanding of, okay, I know now myself. If I'm spending too much time, I'm then starting to feel a little bit more anxious. There's some anxiety that's building up because I've been watching too many videos that are not good. They're not positive. For some time, I was getting way too many videos about the war in out in the Middle East and stuff. So things like that affect us too. So it's limiting your time doing stuff like that. So be conscious, be aware, and just be mindful. Again, be mindful about technology. Understand that it has an effect on us, and I understand that we can't live without it at this point because it's so entwined in everyone's daily life. But if you have the opportunity to be mindful of it, and catch yourself sometimes, and it's just like, oh, I don't really need to do this right now, and just, you can wait. You can, if it's because you're walking from one place to the other, you also need to keep safety in between those, your walk from A to B, and just be aware. Just take in, this existence, this reality as you walk, and just be aware, live in the moment. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and just conclude this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in to this little small series on technology. And till next time. Peace.
Later.